Yo ninjas, I'm Kaio. Let's see how to make your flare better. I made a flare PDF guide. If you need help in learning the flare, and if you're serious about it, check out the guide, link in the description. First thing to improve your flare, the hands placement and rhythm. A very common mistake about the flare, it's not really a mistake, but something that in my opinion makes the form a little bit uglier. If you spin clockwise, is leaning the right hand a little bit forward, like this. So, not leaning the hands kind of like in the same spot all the time, but leaning the right hand forward. In this way, if you do it, you're gonna do the flare in a circle. So you're not gonna stay on the front all the time, but you're gonna turn around with your body in the opposite direction. So if you spin clockwise like me, you will turn your body counterclockwise in this way, to the left. You can still have a very good, very high and very smooth flare by turning, but in my opinion, the form will be better if you try to stay with your hands all the time in the same spot and never turning with your hands. If you want, you can lean a little forward with your right hand, but then you have to lean forward also with the left in order to stay to the front. Maybe you will move forward when you do the flare, but in my opinion, it's way better to move forward instead than rotating. It's very rare, but sometimes can happen also the opposite thing, leaning the left hand a little bit forward and waiting too long, and in this way you're gonna turn towards the right side. So if you spin clockwise like me, you're gonna also turn clockwise with your body. Also, this is a little bit ugly in my opinion, but it's really up to you if you like these forms or these variations. You can also play with them and try to create your own variations where you turn more in the flare. To avoid doing that, try to stay with your hands always in the same spot, or if you lean forward with one hand, you have to lean forward also with the other. Same thing also if you lean forward with the left, then you have to lean forward also with the right to make your flare balanced and to not turn your body. If it happens that you're leaning one hand forward or even backwards, it can be because you don't have the same timing in the flare. What I mean by that? I mean that you have to stay on one side the same time that you're staying also on the other side. To really realize if you're doing this correctly, just do some videos of yourself doing the flare to the front and try to see how your weight is moving from one side to the other, and try to figure out if you're staying longer on one side or on the other side. Or try to figure out if you're leaning one hand forward and one hand backwards. To correct this, try the flare slowly, even by sliding with your feet on the floor, doesn't really matter, but try slowly and try to pay attention about your timing and about where you place your hands exactly. And try to stay always in the same spot. It doesn't have to be perfect, so you can move just a little bit, it's okay. But the important thing is that you don't move too much like this or like this, okay? Second tip to improve your flare, your hips. Many people use their legs properly when doing flares. You can kick properly with the legs, it's okay, but you're kind of sitting, you're not pushing with your hips up. So your flare shape is gonna be kind of like this, with your hips very low, close to the floor, and with your legs very high. If you want to make your form better, it would be good if you try to push your hips like this, high. Not only the legs up high like this, but also the hips, both things. Not only to the front, but also to the side and to the back. Directly when you're starting the flare, don't only kick the legs, but really try to do this with your hips. Really pushing your hips high to the side and forward. And from here, keep pushing your hips forward, try to arrive in this position, and from here, keep pushing your hips up. Up, until here, very high. So the hips are pushing all the time, like this, in a circle. Don't just kick your legs, but really push and turn your hips to the side in a circle like this. Your hips should stay as far as possible from your hands. So the closer you stay with your hips towards your hands like this, the lower your flare will be. The more you push your hips away from your hands, the higher your flare will be. To learn this move as efficiently as possible, you have to follow a specific plan or method, and not just practice the move randomly or following too many different tutorials, because they all give you different information, and the training process could be a little confusing. The courses that I have created collect all the information that is very useful and structure it very clearly to make power moves easy for everyone. They also provide a training plan and some extra tips and concepts. How to learn how to push your hips? I recommend practicing only the flare start, so only this part of the flare here. And when you do it, stay with your hips high. So don't stay like this, but stay up higher like this. If you can arrive in this position, you can already use your hips properly in the starting part of the flare. After mastering this start, try to do one full round of flare by really pushing your hips like this all the time. So not only in the starting part like this, but also to the second half of the round like this. And when you are to the back, really push your hips up high. Something else that can help you is just staying in the static positions of the flare. So the first position will be this one, and just pushing your hips high. So maybe you can start from here, very low, and from here, push. To push your hips high, you also have to rely on your shoulder strength, because you're not only pushing your hips like this, but you're pushing with your shoulders, so the hips are going away from your hands, from your body. So from here, to make your hips higher, your shoulder is pushing, kind of like pushing the floor away from you. So in this position, push. Also to the front, same thing. From here, or from here, or from here, really with your shoulders, push. So you should really push with your shoulders like this. And same thing on the back. From here, push with your shoulders. In this case, hips and shoulders are related. You have to use them together. One common mistake could be bending the arms and pushing also with the arms a little bit. In my opinion, you can do it, but it makes the flare form a little bit uglier. So in my opinion, it's better if you stay with your arms straight and you don't rely on the strength of your arms to push, but only on the strength of your shoulders, and also about your flexibility a little bit, the flexibility of your shoulders. Because if you're not comfortable staying in this position because your shoulders are stretching too much, it means that you have to work more on your mobility. Third tip to improve your flare, focus on the back part of the flare. Most people focus too much on the front part of the flare. Focus on keeping your legs wide on the back part of the flare, and also pushing with the shoulders, as I said in the previous tip. So when you arrive here, really make sure this leg is kicking up and this leg is kicking backwards. If you spin clockwise, the right leg is kicking like this and is staying here. Really kick and hold this leg strong up. The other leg is kicking backwards. If you do it correctly, this leg is gonna be high and this leg also will go high. It will take some time. You just need to think about it and work on it a lot. Really trying to open your legs as much as possible. At first, maybe you will have no control over your legs and maybe you will close them a little bit on the back. But if you think about it all the time, and if you really try to engage your legs muscles, and if you practice a little bit slower maybe, don't practice too fast, but really take your time, practice slowly, and really try to push your legs and make them wide. And also push your hips up and push with your shoulders, then your flare is gonna get better to the back. And it's gonna get better overall. If you will need more help to learn the flare, check out the guide that I made, link in the description, and see you next week with a new tutorial. Yo ninjas!